It's time for Let's Chat with Russtek, a podcast dedicated to helping entrepreneurs just like you. When starting out, entrepreneurs often feel they need to go it alone, and I'm here to tell you that's just not the case. Entrepreneurs have a lot of questions, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Nick Russell, and this is Let's Chat with Russtek. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat with Russtek. My name is Nick Russell, and today I want to kind of continue along that same path that we talked about last week. And I want to talk about being an expert and how you could be an expert in your field and serve your audience at a higher level. Now, last week we talked about the beginning stages of the book Expert Secrets that Russell Brunson wrote. That was his second book. And we talked about finding that spark and then becoming the reporter so you can actually learn from all the other experts that are in your industry and interview them on a podcast, talk to them, and have them guest blog and interview them in Facebook Lives, whatever the case may be. But getting out there and interviewing people so you can actually learn as much as you possibly can. And that's kind of one of the things I did with Russell Brunson and all those things. Although I've never had him on a podcast or anything like that, I have gone through his frameworks and I've used those to learn as much as I possibly can. Now, one of the first things I did was I bought the books. So before Traffic Secrets came out and before the box set, the trilogy came out, I had the original .com Secrets and then I had the original Expert Secrets. And then I went back when he finished the Expert Secrets book, he rewrote and added more into both .com and Expert. So I went through and got that trilogy that actually came with the Unlock the Secrets book, which kind of helps you build your own frameworks. And then after that, one of the things that I've done, kind of did it out of order because he's added new things to it. But I went through and I did just recently again, so I did the One Funnel Away Challenge for a second time, but I started with the 5-day lead challenge, which was completely free and really cool. And then I went into the One Funnel Away Challenge, and he's done two different styles of them. This is the 2.0. It's all digital this time, but still just jam-packed full of knowledge. And I used that and I got so much out of that. And I've seen how Russell does his frameworks. And Rachel Miller, she was also part of both the One Funnel Away and the 5-day lead challenge. So I got to see how she taught in her frameworks for things, right? And just recently, I had a conversation with a friend who was just starting to get into his own business, and he wants to build websites for his customers and clients, and it's something he's very passionate about. And he asked me how he could market that to his audience. And the first thing I told him after we had a conversation, I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, start where I started. Get the .com secret book, get the trilogy then, and then you can read those books. But while you're waiting for those books to come in, go in and take the 5-day lead challenge, because Russell teaches you right then and there how to get leads. And then after the 5-day lead challenge, I told him to take the One Funnel Away challenge, which they talk about in the 5-day lead challenge. And then from there, he can go on, and if he wants to really take things to the next level, there's the 2 Comma Club live event, there's the funnel hacking live event, and it just keeps going up and up from there, depending on going up the value ladder and depending on how much money he wants to spend and how much he wants to invest and learn his craft in order to do these websites, right? So that right there, everything I just said, so that's Russell Brunson's framework and how he teaches people. And that's kind of how I learn and what I'm working on and continually working on to build my business in my own frameworks. Now, for you, when you want to build your frameworks, go to live events, go to webinars. It's like we're in the middle of COVID right now. So live events are starting to happen, but if there isn't, take a webinar, take a masterclass, go on a podcast and ask to be part of somebody's podcast where you can ask them questions. Start interviewing people for posts on Facebook and Instagram. Do TikTok lives, Facebook lives, Instagram lives. Learn as much as you possibly can from people that are in your Dream 100. Okay, so your target audience, the experts in that field, learn as much as you can from these guys. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take a notebook, and yeah, this has my notes. But take your notebook, your Rocketbook, whatever the book you have, and start jotting down everything that you've learned. In point form, all the major key topics that you've learned. And then once you've done that, you can take that and you can break that down into different segments. So if you've ever noticed, if you ever really paid attention to any of my blogs, now the podcast and then the YouTube channel, everything's kind of segmented. So I'll start talking about different topics that relate to entrepreneurs and being productive and how you can grow as an entrepreneur. And then I transition into the different aspects of growing online, using social media, the different platforms. And then I'll kind of talk into like these segments here, where I'm really diving into the Expert Secrets book by Russell Brunson. So this is the book that I'm talking about right here. This is a hard copy and hardcover book of Expert Secrets, and that's what we're talking about right now. And I'm really diving into this book in the next couple of weeks because I really want to showcase what Russell teaches here. Because that's what helped me grow my business. Now, the cool thing about Expert Secrets, everything in this book, if you wanted to become a client of Russell's, if you wanted him to be your coach, he would charge you $10,000 for him to teach you. But everything he teaches, and he just mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned on last week's blog too, so maybe like 2-3 weeks ago, he had mentioned this. Everything he teaches and helps you grow in his coaching program is right here in Expert Secrets. So if you're listening to the podcast, I have the Expert Secrets book I'm holding up, I'm showing the camera. But everything he teaches for $10,000 worth of coaching is right here in this book. It's a free book. So this book is free. All you have to do is pay for shipping. I believe it's like $7-8 if you're in the US. If you're anywhere else in the world, it's international shipping, so it's like $20. But even still, the book is $40. So you're saving $20 just by paying shipping. And then there's upsells and bonuses and the amazing funnels that he builds for those. So, but getting back into the framework. So at the beginning of the podcast, we talked about, getting the books. You get those books for free if you do them individually. I do highly recommend getting the box set, the trilogy, because there's the Unlock the Secrets workbook, which is unbelievable. I have so many doodles. I didn't really want to write in it, but I have so many doodles and drawings and text, and I've written in that, and it's helped me tremendously because that is actually my frameworks. I built my frameworks using that Unlock the Secrets book. So you start there, and then the next part of his value ladder, the next part of his framework that he teaches you is in the 5-day lead challenge, and then in the 1 funnel away challenge, and then in a 2 Comma Club live event. So those are Russell's frameworks, and each one of those, so he has an over-encompassing framework, and then each individual framework, he has something new to teach you. So you can start with something small, teach your audience, and then grow on that. So if you take our blog and then into our podcast here, you'll notice I touch on a few topics in the podcast. It's in written form, it's on the website, and you could read that. Then you could actually listen to the podcast here, which is a little bit easier for some to consume because you could be in the car, you could be working and have that playing in the background. So it's not something you're stuck doing right there and having to read the blog. Not that they're very long. I am not a great writer, and I will say that from day one. But I dive a little bit deeper and talk a little bit more into some of the aspects of the things I talk about in the blog. So that's kind of how Russell teaches his frameworks. So you start with one topic, you've written down all the things that you need to know that you've learned from all these experts. And then you can grow on each one of those topics to build your own frameworks. So we'll take the perfect webinar framework that he has. He actually has a framework to build webinars. And that's all it is like your introduction. He tells you a couple of secrets, and then it's the offer stack to close. Very simple framework, but he dives into teaching you what you need to know and then going into the next framework. So the offer stack is what he sells you at the end of that webinar to get you into the next stage, the next phase of that value ladder. And then what he can do with that perfect webinar is there's a 5-minute version. So if you're on a Facebook Live, if you're on YouTube, if you're doing a podcast, if you, whatever the case may be, whatever you're doing, you can do that 5-minute perfect webinar, his framework. And then what he'll do is he'll take that and blow it up into a full 1-hour webinar masterclass. He's done it into 5 hours. He went on stage with, it was Grant Cardone's event. And I think it was like 30,000, 40,000 people or whatever it was in an arena. He took his perfect webinar script, made it for the 2-3 hours long, provided a ton of value, and they did an offer stack at the end of that. And then he had people set up around the arena to sell you that offer. So as soon as he finished on stage, people left their seats, went to these tables, and it was a mad table rush. He sold $3 million it was 90 minutes. That's what it was, $3 million in 90 minutes, 90-minute presentation. Now, his Funnel Hacking Live is his multi-day event. Actually, so I won't talk about that because I've never been to Funnel Hacking Live. That is on the bucket list. But I've been to the Two Comma Club Live event, which is a mini version of Funnel Hacking Live, which is online. It's a virtual event, and it was a 3-day event. So it's a 3-day event, but it was basically his 5-minute perfect webinar, and then his perfect webinar. And his perfect webinar opened up until 3 days worth of teachings and master classes and all of his frameworks. So that's how important it is to have a framework for you to be able to teach your audience, to provide value to your audience. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, whether you're in the information or if you're in a retail space, even if you're selling products, you can use this knowledge, these frameworks, to showcase your products online using social media, in order to educate your audience of why they should buy this BlackBerry from you as opposed to somebody else, because you have more to offer. Maybe it's, I'll give you this BlackBerry, but on top of the BlackBerry, I'm going to give you all these different apps that are on there. I'm going to give you all these different trainings and webinars that will be preloaded on this. Plus it has a fancy case and a fancy key ring or whatever the case may be. But when you teach your frameworks, you can show people online that buying this BlackBerry from you is better than buying it from somebody else. Mind you, nobody's going to buy a BlackBerry but me, but that's just me. So that's the power of having a framework and the ability to teach your audience and kind of build that relationship with them, to show them that you're the expert in your field and you're the one to go to help them in whatever it is that they want help doing. So hopefully that kind of touch base on the frameworks, what a framework is and how they could help you. I don't want to drag on too long because we have another podcast next week and another blog and another YouTube video next week that kind of goes even further into the Expert Secrets book by Russell Brunson and kind of helping you along to show you how many amazing things are in that book. And if you do want this book, I will have it in the description below. It's absolutely free. I got it here in Canada. I paid a little bit more because I got the trilogy. But if you want to get the just this book, It's absolutely free. You just pay about $20 worth of shipping because it's coming from the States into Canada. If you're in the States, I believe it's like $7-8. But it's a free book. And he charges $10,000 to coach what's in this book. So to me, that's a no-brainer. One of the best books I've ever read. And currently, I've read this book half a dozen times. And the .com secrets I've read over a dozen times. It's like a textbook. I just keep reading that book. It's that good. So hopefully you enjoyed this podcast. Hopefully you got a little bit out of it. And if you want that free book, it'll be in the description below. And we'll chat with you next week.
If you're going to start a mass movement and create a vehicle for change, the first question you have to ask yourself is, who do I want to serve? Sometimes it can be hard to identify exactly who these people are. If you look closely, you'll find almost all expert businesses are based on one of three core markets: health, wealth, or relationship. Inside each of these three core markets are multiple sub-markets. For example, inside of health, you could have dozens of sub-markets like diet, nutrition, strength training, and weight loss. Inside the wealth market, you may have finance, investing, real estate, and sales. And the same goes for the relationship market. The list is practically endless in any of these three core markets. My question for you is, what sub-market does your area of expertise fit in now? Some of you may think that you found your answer, but the money is not in the sub-market. The riches are in the niches, and those are one step beyond the sub-market. Look around the other experts in your sub-markets and see what they are selling. Where do you fit in that ecosystem? What can you offer people that is different and special? The goal is to carve out a unique spot in that ecosystem where you can thrive. That's your niche, and that niche is one of the keys to success as an expert.